I'm Lin-Manuel Miranda, and you're listening to Hard NOC Life.
Well, it's the NOC in full color. You see me? The Hard NOC
Your ears
Life.
do not deceive me.
This
is Hard NOC Life. I'm Pete
I'm Britney Monet.
Oh, hi, I'm Dominic Ma.
Look, the gang is all together. Not only is the show back, the gang is back together.
Good to see you.
Happy
too long.
Xmas war is over. Not really. Happy X-Men strike is over.
Happy
How
X
about
something.
that? Strike is over. Part of the reason we've been on hiatus is that Britney has, in accordance with the SAG and WGA strikes, did not want to podcast. So we respected her wishes, and we also did not podcast.
I totally thought you guys were
Solidarity
podcasting because I always tell people I show up for the recordings, but what actually makes it, I don't know, because I don't listen.
She doesn't realize
to
I
it.
just cut her out of every podcast. She has no idea. She's never been on a Hard Knock Life.
Yeah,
And
I have
use
no
her
idea.
AI likeness just for the parts that you like.
That tracks.
So one of the reasons we've come back, yes, the strikes are over. And just in time, they lifted the strikes so that Brie Larson could promote the Marvels. Unfortunately, wasn't enough time because the Marvels came out this weekend, and it is the lowest grossing MCU film ever.
Oh, is that what it said? I didn't read
Yeah.
the headline.
It made like
I didn't know
$50
what the headline
million
was.
or
It's
something.
the most grossing or the least grossing?
Yeah, least grossing. And
Well, it's also
So
the
here-
shortest, so that's proportionate. But
it's a per pound. It's still pretty big.
yeah. You're buying the movie by the pound.
But so the Marvels came out. It was a big Marvel weekend because the Marvels came out. Loki season 2 ended the same day. And interestingly, Tom Hiddleston and I forget the actress's name who played the villain in the Marvels are engaged. So
Yes,
Oh,
yeah,
it was
they
like
have
the
a
first-
baby together.
yeah, it's the first couple to lead a
Is it Zawe Ashton or something like that?
Yeah,
something
like
Maybe
that, yeah.
futzing- Oh,
Darben.
The person I went to
Darben
the
and
movie
Loki
with
are-
was so crushing on her while we were watching the movie.
Yeah.
You just
So
thought
that
she
was
the
that was
best.
this weekend. And so we're going to talk about it. Here's the interesting part. Neither Brittany nor I and most of America saw the Marvels this weekend. Dominic did, however. And Dominic did not see Loki, though Brittany and I
Oh.
did. So we're going to spoil each other on the two big Marvel things this week. And then catch up on what we've missed over the last couple months when we decided to shut the podcast down. So we'll start with the Marvels. That's the bigger story of the two, right? Because it's the big Marvel movie that came out after much delay. I know, Dominic, you'd been super hyped for it. You wrote a great piece on the Nerds of Color, actually, in anticipation for it because of your love of the Captain Marvel original. And so I wanted first, before we talked about like the details or why it didn't do so well or what it means and all the stupid internet stuff about the movie. What was your impression of the film now that you finally got the movie you'd been anticipating for at least 4+ years?
Yeah, well, I want to say, I mean, you're right. I loved the first one, loved it a lot. And overall, the Marvels is, how shall one say? I want to
I
be
think
careful.
the sigh itself was quite the review right there. And it was,
I want to be careful how I say this because the result is like a lot of recent Marvel content. It is edited in a kind of disjointed way, and the camera work feels kind of underplanned. But I don't think that's all about the director, editor, or the DP necessarily. I think the recent Variety article, and can we call it an expose about the Marvel assembly line process, which is we understand that they do like a lot of reshoots, and since the scripts are top secret, probably some of the actors don't know necessarily what's going on at the time as they're getting the pages. And also, I'm guessing the editor a lot of the time doesn't know what is actually supposed to be happening while they're putting the scene together on the fly and on a tight deadline. I see all the marks of this, and I've been saying this Star Wars 9. That movie is like, the editing is just really awful, but I think it was because they were doing it on the fly. and just adjusting the story and script as we went along. So that's why I don't want to pin it on
Nia DaCosta, which,
or her skill set, because I don't know.
Well, and that's the thing, like
yeah.
with the speaking, you mentioned the Variety article by Tatiana Siegel. Like there was, I think it was a misinterpretation either by the writer of the article or by how the article was, shared across the internet. But there was this whole like big deal made of the fact that Nia kind of moved on to a different project in the post-production of the Marvels. And it was played as if like it was either DaCosta saying this movie sucks or Kevin Feige sucks, or this is just not how my process is. I mean, it could be some of that, I mean, anyone who's worth their weight in directing has bumped up against the Marvel way in one way or another.
Sure.
Oscar winning Chloe Zhao had like when she did the Eternals, as much as we like that movie, there were a lot of people who had different opinions. But anyway, so they talk about how that was, at least in the Variety article, that was odd. But I think that's actually, to Dominic's point, part of the Marvel way. You kind of like film what you film, and then you just leave it to Kevin Feige and his minions.
And then they do another pass to reshoot based on notes, probably. And I mean, I don't know. Before I get to like the spoiler part, I just wanted to ask you folks, like as the people who haven't seen it yet, what are your feelings like? Like, I mean, compared to I had big anticipation for it and deeply felt that particular Marvel movie, Captain Marvel. What are your anticipations about it, or feelings, or why you have or haven't seen it?
And Brittany, I know you've been trying to avoid Disney things, to random success, but other than that reason, why not watching the Marvel? Because I know you're a big fan of Brie Larson's and you liked the first movie. Like, was there a reason that you just didn't get around to seeing the Marvels other than the like, I don't want to support Disney?
It's pretty much that, which is like hard because I know I'm still technically like using Disney Plus, but I just thought like I pick where I can. So I really do actually want to see the movie a lot because I love Brie Larson. Obviously, I love Iman. She was great. And then obviously, like the three of them, I was really excited to see them coming together. So for me, it was not because of like the
MCU.
Yeah, so that wasn't the reason. I want to make it very clear. Like, I was not one of those people who are like, oh, I don't like seeing women and women of color leading a movie. Like, no, that's definitely not why.
Clearly not.
Totally not why. It was just trying to pick because I'm gonna miss Wish like too. Like, I really want to see that because it looks cute and I love Chris Pine. So it's just like, and he's playing a bad guy, and you know me, I love bad guys. Yeah, I'm skipping both of those, trying to skip as much as I can with Disney. So like that's my reason behind not seeing it. So again, that's probably a lot of reason why I think some people are not seeing it, because there's some people who straight up canceled Disney Plus and like are doing even way better than I am with like boycotting Disney. And then there's people who, unfortunately didn't know because of the SAG strike didn't help with promoting. And then there's like, again, I think people who are just not as online, and so they don't know when certain things are coming out even without like a strike going on. So I feel like a lot of the way people watch movies and stuff like has completely gone down in general. So that's at least what I think is going on. I don't think it's unfortunately what the dudes are thinking of like, oh, people hate women. People are, no one wants stories about women and women.
Yeah, I got a lot of troll activity about that for the first one too. And that's why I was kind of attached to it. Yeah. But I mean, about the Marvels, the story specifically, I mean, were you interested in that and just in its place and continuing the story of the Marvel universe? I mean, because we're at this point, like, a lot of people are also feeling fatigue and like, I don't like movies so much that much. And I was thinking of it kind of like, maybe this is the one that will get me to love the MCU again, like I loved it when Endgame came out. That was my investment. I mean,
yeah, I'll say, like, I think I'm more in the camp of I mean, this is the Nerd's Color. We were not seeing the movie because of all the reasons the dude bros on the internet are gloating today. Like, everyone is very excited that this movie failed, and it's kind of gross, The reason for me, and I feel like this has been true for a while, we talked about this a little bit in our 10th anniversary extravaganza a couple months ago, when the last Hard Knock Life podcast, where I was just feeling a little burnt out on nerd shit. And
Sure.
I think that's part of
Feeling the
it.
burn.
Yeah, like right, like the MCU has not been keeping my attention. Like I kind of, with the Disney Plus stuff, I kind of just watch it as a obligation, and I don't really look forward to, like, it's not like, oh, today's Wednesday or Thursday or whenever the fuck it comes out, and like I need to go watch the new Loki, which is interesting because we'll talk about the finale. And I'll quick spoiler, one of the reasons I love the finale so much is that ultimately I was like, you know what, I don't care how this fits in the MCU. I liked what they did emotionally in this episode. It probably screws everything up for whatever the multiverse saga is, honestly, but I don't care. And it's funny because with the Marvels, everything I've read about it, everything I've seen about it is that, it wasn't just the sequel to Captain Marvel. It was also a sequel to 2 TV shows, basically. And with 3, if you count Secret Invasion. And it kind of like drops the ball, as someone who hasn't seen that. This is what I want to ask you, Dominic. It kind of drops the ball as being the continuation of 4 different stories. And that's kind of like the thing with the MCU right now, is that it's just too much to balance in terms of what it needs to carry forward. And movies can't just be movies by themselves. They have to be chapters in a larger story that doesn't seem to fit together. And we're seeing how Marvel's reconfiguring its future slate because of all the delays, because of the pandemic and because of the strikes, and just not getting the script right. We heard about in the time we were gone, Daredevil going back to the drawing board, even though they've already shot like half the season. So like there's a bunch of stuff that I think Marvel is finally kind of feeling the pressure of being the cinematic universe that every other attempt at cinematic universe has dealt with. That is, it's hard to do it. And even Marvel is saying, it is hard.
Yeah, no, there's way too much lore. And I think of y'all as people who, like me, follow the lore and pick up on Easter eggs or watching everyone and sometimes look forward to them. And for me, there's way too much. It's just too much of the freaking backstory. But also speaks to, it was ambitious in the sense that it's sort of a team story of these 3 other characters who came from two different TV shows and a movie. And it doesn't quite, none of their points of view kind of gel. And, when I was learning, one of the most important things I learned about filmmaking from my friend Jennifer Pong early on was that an emotionally effective movie really has to have a point of view. Like you have to be with someone watching and experiencing a story. And by, I think, like laxness of camera work and editing, you're just kind of watching them do these things.
But it's funny because you and I have always disagreed around how, like, the approach to the MCU, even in the good old days, right? Like phases 1 through 4.
Good old days.
Or I guess phases 1 through 3, right? 4 was the one that everyone complains about. The good old days of
in the 4?
Phase 4, yeah. That cinematically, the Marvel movies were never that great, like visually or like editing, camera work.
Oh right,
it was very like staid. It was very
relatively dry.
Show.
Relatively,
gray. Everything's gray. You shoot a big fight scene in an airport, and it's not the most visually striking. Every frame is a painting kind of thing. The way the Snyderverse, as horrible as the stories were, you could pause your screen at any moment in a Zack Snyder movie and go, "That's beautiful."
Yes.
The context is what is what brings down the DC movies, right? But without context, if you pause like the middle of the fight scene in Civil War, it's kind of drab.
Well, okay, but I would say the Russo brothers were really good at directing for point of view, even in the large group fight sequence. Not so much of that one. There's a lot going on that one, but like to compare, like the end of Endgame, like we're with Captain America during the first.
I mean, I say this as someone who has watched
with someone else, we don't feel any impact from that scene.
Trust me, I say this as someone who's rewatched that scene where Cap stands alone against the mighty hordes by himself before the port. Like, everyone loves the portals. My favorite scene is right before the portals when Cap is like, "Fuck it, I will fight you with this half shield," and you get the character of Steve Rogers. Like, I love that, and I'm not degrading, like, but I'm just saying, like, the alter mode has never been Marvel's go to when it comes to making their movies, right? The singular point of view of the filmmaker. The reason Martin Scorsese always goes after Marvel is that's the big that's the big tension, right? Like the director is not the most important person in a Marvel movie.
Well, yeah, it leans that way, but I say even in that, in the original Captain Marvel, definitely in Black Panther, like we did have a filmmaker who was trying to give you the character's point of view, and it was just like some shots breathed, and you just like saw them in an open field, and like it lasted for longer than 6 seconds, and you just felt like you're with that person, and for various reasons, you're just completely lost in the Marvels. Like I would compare like even Birds of Prey, another superhero movie that's a team of a bunch of women. Thanks to Christina Hodgson's clever script and good direction, I know it conveys the sense of that group of people like a lot more. And here they're just like every time they get to like a character moment where they could be talking about their sort of sisterly relationship, they stop and start talking about wormholes and Kree Empire like backstory and shit like that. And you're like, okay.
It's funny that like its 90-minute runtime probably didn't do it any favors either.
Yeah, no, it's extremely. Yeah, everything's too tight. All the shots I think need more head and tail.
I feel like sorry, I feel like how Marvel usually kind of does like reshoots in the last how Marvel usually does reshoots in the last month or two before the movie actually comes out. I feel like that definitely played a huge part into maybe the movie not being as long. Like there was stuff that they couldn't film and do because actors are on strike. It's just how much of this movie was genuinely affected by the strike. Was it already just not? It was just dead on arrival because of, again, we've seen a lot of from Disney as a whole, and this could be more Disney's directives than Kevin Feige's is we adjust to what the men on the internet are saying and not what other people are saying, because we saw that for sure between The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker. So I don't know.
Marvel 1.
Yeah, so I don't know again if the backlash is more, if the backlash has also changed the way that the Marvels is gonna go. They're like, well, we can't do a solo Captain Marvel movie again, so we're gonna do the team up movie, which there's nothing wrong with doing a team up movie for her. But again, it's just like how much of that was because we can't have the focus just be on Brie. And then I don't know if that changes, and then everything, and then Secret Invasion was not good, to be real.
I like Secret Invasion, but maybe that's a different story.
Oh really? I mean, I wanted to like Secret Invasion.
Me too.
But it felt too small, and I guess we never got to podcast about it because.
Small. Well, I mean, that's interesting. That's an interesting way to characterize it because things are getting compressed and okay. Anyway,
we can go down a Secret Invasion wormhole because so I will say one of the things I've read, again, take this from someone who has not seen the Marvels, but I've read that the tone and the approach to the Marvels feels incongruous to what was laid in Secret Invasion, particularly with the Skrulls and Nick Fury, and because apparently there's a plot point in the movie where Captain Marvel did help the Skrulls, but the whole point of Secret Invasion is that why didn't anyone help the Skrulls? Yeah. So there's some, even Marvel, as grand as it's been keeping all of its threads together, the temporal loom has broken and you can't keep every storyline straight anymore.
No, that is accurate. Tonally, the Skrulls and the Marvels are totally different from the Skrulls and Secret Invasion. But there's and also anyway, I don't want to sound like a hater. As a true Marvel nerd, I found 3 or 4 parts that are just great, and you'll enjoy them when you end up seeing it. However you do, I think. So now we'll get to the spoilery part.
Well, yeah. So one spoilery thing, since we're on the Secret Invasion tip, Valkyrie makes a big cameo-ish thing in the movie. The New Asgard, being a place of refuge, and one of the biggest gripes I had with Secret Invasion is that Nick Fury's whole premise is Earth will never accept aliens as being among them and give them their own place to live, where New Asgard's been fucking here for the last 5 years, just thriving. They got froyo businesses and they got tourism. Why can't Nick Fury make a call to President Valkyrie or King Valkyrie and be like, hey, can some Skrulls live up in here? They already have shape-shifting elves that are being, tried by Jennifer Walters. Why can't Skrulls live there? And that's actually a point in the Marvels, right? Like there's a whole thing with Valkyrie, and
Valkyrie shows up and accepts some of the Skrull refugees. And again, it's difficult because you're tracking that plot point, which you may have learned from Secret Invasion, right. May have learned from the first Captain Marvel, or you may not have. So that's a bit awkward. But like I do want to say, the Brie Larson is great in it, and Kamala Khan is great. Iman Vellani is highlights.
She's the breakout.
It's great to see her again. I think like the Dominic Rambeau part is a little undercooked, and maybe that's just a balancing act of the three different people. But like that story had the most potential with her mom passed away, and mom's best friends with Carol, and the auntie who left for space for 20 years or whatever. That like really wanted to be a tender relationship that for whatever weird editing reason got really clamped down into just passing between set pieces. However, there are the 3 or 4 good parts. There's a great sort of musical dance scene involving that dude from Squid Games. There's a wonderful reference to Cats the musical, if you happen to like Cats the musical, and I do.
Or Flurkins, I think, is the new Andrew Lloyd Webber musical.
Yes, that's going to be the new Andrew Lloyd Webber musical. Jellicle Alien Flurkins. And I wanted so much from it. And
well, the big Marvel lore takeaway in the movie is the post-credit sequence, right? Like, this is supposedly the one movie that legit, spoiler alert for those of you who have not seen the movie, legit introduces the X-Men. Like, the whole post-credit sequence takes place with Monica in a different reality.
Yeah, and that's very interesting. And so you folks
know something about that. It was a deep-cut Captain Marvel binary appearance.
Bops into another universe, wakes up, there's Beast, played by Kelsey Grammer, I guess.
Yeah.
And is it Lashana Lynch playing some version of her mom, Maria Rambeau, in a suit that is like the binary suit, which is one of Carol Danvers' identities when she's hanging out with the X-Men and wasn't Captain Marvel at that time. Okay, comics nerds. And I really like binary as a character in a look, so I was happy to see that. So yes, very just basically saying Monica dropped into the universe that the X-Men are in, so that's great. But what trivia was like getting exactly Kelsey Grammer to play the Beast, like,
well, and really, this is the thing, yeah.
Are they going to rehire all those people?
Well, this is what gives me pause, because of all of the X-Men that have made appearances in alternate realities in the MCU so far, you have Charles Xavier, played by Patrick Stewart. You're going to have Hugh Jackman playing Wolverine. Now we have Kelsey Grammer returning as the Beast. Like, not the Beast. They're not bringing in the Disney princesses. He's playing Beast, Hank McCoy. But yeah, like, why just rehire all of the Fox folks if we're bringing the X-Men into the MCU? I mean, on the one hand, I really thought
they were going to recast them all younger again.
Well, right. On the one hand, it's kind of like a Spider-Man No Way Home thing, maybe, where you just bring back the originals and then you can kind of like pass the torch to there's some other reality where there's a bunch of young X-Men, maybe, and not the young X-Men from the James McAvoy verse, right? Like a different set of young X-Men.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know, Brittany, having heard now that it wasn't Blue Marvel, but it was Beast that shows up at the end of the movie. Like, I know you've been wanting to see the X-Men in the franchise. How do you feel that now that we've seen some X-Men and, you know, Fox is now part of Disney and Disney owns everything, and we're going to get our Secret Invasion or Secret War pretty soon? Where are you stand on the X-Men's entrance into the MCU?
Kind of lame, because, like, I mean, I don't know. I was hoping for it was going to be Blue Marvel, like I said, because my fan cast for Blue Marvel is Leslie Odom Jr. So I was
by the way, and then that would be the fourth of the Marvels in one movie.
Yeah, it would
four different characters that have something to do with Marvel in their name. Sorry, go on.
It would have been cool. That's what I was That's what I was like
Straight
hoping
flush.
for, that this person's cryptic tweet meant when they said they saw the blue, and I was like, okay, Blue Marvel. I'm like, okay, who's gonna play him? So yeah, the fact that it just was Beast was just like, oh, okay, I guess. But I don't know.
I mean,
They
and
could
your
have.
boy Nicholas Holt played Beast. Like, are you upset it's not Nicholas Holt and it's Kelsey Grammer? I mean, Kelsey Grammer was fine, but who gives a shit about X-Men: The Last Stand? You know what I mean? Like,
Right, really strange pull there.
Yeah, I don't know, but then I don't know if like they felt people. I don't know, but
I mean, I really
like,
don't know. Do you think they want to, like you said, in a No Way Home kind of way, get exactly the same actors to redo most of them? That seems,
maybe.
I don't
I mean,
know.
because he looks more CG. He doesn't look like Kelsey Grammer's Beast. Like, he actually looks more like the comic book Beast in the post credits.
Well, yeah. I think Beast imaging technology has improved since X-Men Last
I mean,
Stand.
it was straight up makeup in the
Even X-Men Last Stand is one really good part, but I digress.
I didn't hate it as much back in 2006. I honestly thought it was the better superhero movie that came out that year between that and Superman Returns, but you know whatever.
Touche.
I mean, it was funny because they swapped problematic directors, right? Because Bryan Singer went from X-Men to do Superman, and then Brett Ratner was supposed to do the Superman movie and ended up doing X-Men, and they both suck as human beings.
They're both kind of sketch, yeah.
Yeah.
Sus, I would say, but I digress. But so it was kind of exciting. I liked seeing the binary suit.
Yeah, binaries, but even that isn't enough, I think, to excite people. And this is where I stand, because it's almost to the point. Like, as great as those cameos in No Way Home were, I mean, we saw this with The Flash. Like, I think tapping into that nostalgic look at all these people who've played these superheroes before is like diminishing returns now. And so by the time we get to Secret War 3 years from now, when the big promise of that movie is, although, again, going back to the Variety article, maybe we're bringing back Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans, like, I don't know. I just feel like maybe it's that dreaded phrase superhero fatigue, but I just can't see people giving a shit.
I don't think it's superhero fatigue. I think what happened is Marvel was on top, and then they started slowly declining in their storytelling, which their storytelling, even if, let's say, it wasn't always shot the most beautiful, their storytelling was always like great. And
you cared about the characters.
Yeah. And then now it's just like, okay, we need to promote the next movie, or we need to promote the next thing that's gonna like impact these several movies, instead of like focusing on the present story and like making it work. So it's just, I think, affected Marvel across the board. And I think some of the Disney Plus shows that could have been better too if they were focusing on, let's make this show its thing, instead of, which is why I think Loki stands out the most from those shows, because Loki actually feels like an actual show. And not like, it feels like an actual show and not just like a 5-hour Disney Plus movie, versus some of the other stuff. So I just think, again, they need to go back to making something that they actually are excited about and they care about, and not because like this sets up the next phase or whatever. Like, that's why I also think Werewolf at Midnight was so fantastic, was because it was like something entirely different and new, and you could tell the people behind it really cared about what they were doing.
Quick tangent. How'd you feel about the colorized version?
I haven't watched it because
that's right.
The point.
Yeah, and it just seemed like kind of silly.
Can we bat around one more thing about Marvels before we sort of pivot off to Loki? But because I want to talk about the other major tease for the lore.
Yeah, I was actually going to go there, Dom.
Oh, okay, good. I just didn't want to skip it. But yeah. In a later scene, which, by the way, I'll say is one of the best character scenes in the movie. It's one of those scenes that's like kind of clever and reveals things about the two people involved, and like you wanted the whole movie to breathe like that.
And when I heard about who the other superhero cameo in the movie is, I thought like this movie was genetically designed to appeal to you specifically.
Maybe, yes,
because you do love this particular actress / character.
Yeah. So, spoiler. Pause. Later in the movie, we also see Kate Bishop again, which we think. Now, remind me, what team are they on again? Is it Young Avengers or Champions?
Yeah,
or
they're teasing the Young Avengers for sure. Okay. So Kamala Khan is doing the Nick Fury, and she approaches Kate Bishop.
Right. So it's interesting contrast. So hints of the younger new generation of Marvel characters are getting together. And then they give you this thing of like, oh, wait, old Beast also is going to get in there. And that's what causes me confusion.
Right.
But
that's
I mean, what do you all think about like the Young Avengers configuring, given that these are the actors who will probably have to lead us through the next bunch of Marvel movies?
I mean, that's been the plan. I mean, we've kind of like seen that being telegraphed.
Will it be executed?
Will it be executed? That's exactly right. Because, when we were doing our podcast about WandaVision, we were like, hey, Wanda's kids are in the Young Avengers. And when we were doing Falcon and Winter Soldier, it's like, hey, that's Eli Bradley. He's going to be Patriot. And of course, like Scar shows up in She-Hulk. And is Scar? Yeah, Scar. Not Scar.
Who are you talking about?
This Hulk's son. Was his name Scar?
Sakar?
Scar is the planet.
It was spelled in some weird way. I'm not sure how.
Doesn't matter. The dude with the terrible
kind
haircut.
Hulk's son. Okay.
Hulk's son with the terrible haircut. And of course, Hawkeye's the whole premise of that show is Kate Bishop replacing Clint. Yeah. And so, America Ferrera being America Ferrera doing a big speech in the middle of Barbie. No, America Chavez in Multiverse Madness.
Right. Yeah.
And and they tease, I think, Cassie at the end of that with Kate Bishop. Like, doesn't Ant-Man have a daughter? So like there's
something like that. Yeah.
Ant-Man's daughter, Stinger or whatever her name is going to be. So yeah, they've been hinting at Young Avengers, but right, I'm with you. It's like, how is it going to be executed? Because at this point, it's like, I don't care about it's all connected anymore. I think ultimately how I feel, and this is actually a really good segue to Loki, because I'll say this: I wasn't a big fan of Loki season 1. It was fine. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. I know a lot of people love Loki season 1. I thought it was fine. I was mostly like particularly at that point in my fandom, I was just thinking like, how does this fit? I know that He Who Remains is a version of Kang and they're setting up the multiverse saga and everything, but I just don't see how it all fits together. And then Loki season 2 came out and it's all about the Ouroboros. Shout out to Kihui Kwan. It's all about the snake eating its tail. How does one thing cause the effect of another thing? But then, I remember thinking like, but that's not how time travel works in the Marvel universe. Like there is, like you branch into alternate realities, but you don't do the Back to the Future. Like, remember what Hulk says? Like, your past becomes your present, and then your future becomes your past, and all that kind of like stuff, right? But I will say, with the finale, what I think I liked so much about the Loki season 2 finale is that I didn't care how it affects the rest of the MCU at that point. By the time I got to that particular episode, I cared about Loki and his friends. And I think ultimately that's what made the MCU movies so affecting, right? Like there's this whole like spaghettification of people when their timeline disappears, and it very much plays like the dusting in Infinity War, mostly because you see how it affects Loki, right? Like what's so sad about Tom Holland dusting away or Chadwick Boseman dusting away was the look on Tony Stark's face or the look on Okoye's face. Like when Groot dusts away, like the way Rocket Raccoon reacts, that's what's so sad. It's not just seeing them die. It's I don't want to go, Mr. Stark. And then Tony kind of grasping at air. That's how it feels when the people in Loki's life start dusting away. And that Loki expresses to Sylvie, like, I just want my friends back. I don't want to be alone. That's the thing that's been driving Loki for all of these years in the MCU. And then, spoiler alert, the way the episode ends and the way the series ends, I don't think there's going to be a season 3. Loki's ends with Loki deciding, I will be the center of the multiverse. I will hold the multiverse together, and I have to do that using my super, magical powers to be the timekeeper of the entire multiverse. But I can only do that alone. So, like, he accepts his loneliness as his, like that kind of like storytelling is what made me say, yeah, the science the story of it makes no sense. I don't see how it connects to the rest of the rest of the storytelling in the Marvel universe, but I don't care. I liked the symmetry of Loki accepting what he needed to do to become to transcend and be a better being. You know what I mean? Like, what did you think?
So it sounds like it did affect you in a way that you enjoyed. Is that,
yes, absolutely. Okay. And as someone, again, I didn't really like most of both seasons. But what I realized though, I was actually invested in these characters' lives.
It came to a good point.
And by the end, I was like, oh, I actually care what happens to these people.
Okay. In the finale, which I personally didn't see. Please tell me more.
Yeah, no, I've been invested for me since season 1. I really liked Loki. It felt different from all the shows already. And maybe because you were like in the like houses connect, and for me, I'm like, oh, they're actually telling a good story.
Yeah,
that's where my mind went with it already. So I really liked it. And then Tom Hiddleston is just such like a masterclass actor that like it's fun to watch him like, you know, be this grandiose like Shakespearean type character, and like, you know, everyone else is not there. Just the juxtaposition between him and everyone else is like always fun to watch. And then coming into this, you know, I was hoping like things would work. Like you said, you want him and his friends together. You want him and Sylvie to work out. You want him to have that because he has worked so hard to be better and to not be Loki that we see in the Avengers, you know, because again, that's the Loki we are following in this show. And so just to see him fight so hard to fix this problem so him and his friends can be together, or so that like people are not being pruned, even if they're not, you know, some people aren't going to realize this is obviously happening to them, like to stop this thing from happening and then ultimately doing the ultimate sacrifice. Like, I don't know, it was so good. And then Raphael Caswell was such a fun addition to the show. I don't know, I like Loki. I think it's great. And I think is it Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead, they were so great as like directing out throughout the whole show too, which I think that makes a difference too for season 2. Was that
because they took over from the Michael Hadron, or I think whoever did the first season, they took over the.
I don't know,
because it's a different writer. The writer from season 1 left, and it was a completely
but they directed every episode.
Right.
So I don't know if that helped having the same director also, which I know with some TV shows when you watch it's not always the same director.
Right.
But I don't know if that helped more with like them also still trying to make it feel a part of like, you know, the universe, that having the same people. Because I don't know, I like season 1 a lot, but I really like season 2 a lot more.
Yeah,
I don't know, it was fun.
I'm with you there. I definitely like season 2 way more than season 1, but I just didn't realize how much I liked all of the characters until the end when you know you see. So just for you, Dominic, I know you haven't finished the season, but by the last episode, Loki realizes nothing he can do will fix the TVA from self-destructing. It's just destined to self-destruct, because once they allow timelines to branch in you know infinitely, no device can scale infinitely to keep those branches in order. So it was doomed to implode. And he makes it as, and what's really entertaining to me about the final episode, it's very like there's a Groundhog Day aspect, because now Loki can actually control time. He can not just, you know, slip through time and send himself into like a different branch of reality. He can actually control when and where he appears. He controls he's the time stone, which is actually what leads me to something I want to say in a minute. And he decides that like the only way that I can keep the multiverse together is he somehow walks out onto the gangway and uses his Asgardian magic to like make the timelines tangible, and he just gathers them all together into this like Norse tree of life, and he sits there in the middle at the end of time on his throne. Loki finally gets his throne, but not as a conqueror, as a savior, right? He is the opposite of Kang the Conqueror. He is the savior of the multiverse. He gets Kang's throne at the end of time, and he's just holding the multiverse together infinitely. And you know, and what I really like appreciated about that is there was this tweet by our friend of the pod, Alice Lee, who's an artist. She tweeted a comparison between Loki and Wanda. And let me pull up that tweet real quick, because I don't want to misstate it, because I thought it was so cool what she said.
Don't you mean an exhalation or an X?
I'm not calling that damn. Her daddy named it Twitter. I'm gonna name it Twitter.
You guys and your tweets. I remember when it was called tweets.
It's Twitter to me. I still have the actual Twitter icon on my phone because I have not updated it.
Okay,
I'm gonna name him Cassius. I'm gonna name him Cassius.
I don't know if you can see it.
I don't want to.
It's still Twitter.
So Alice says this tweet, and we shared it on the Nerds Co. The Loki series turned a green-themed magic-wielding supervillain into a superhero. His acceptance of loneliness saved the multiverse.
Great.
The WandaVision series turned a red-themed magic-wielding superhero into a supervillain. Her rejection of loneliness broke the multiverse. And I just thought that was such a great contrast. And what's interesting is I thought about this later. If you think about, like, the time doesn't exist, right? Like, so Loki's sitting at the end of time. He's also at the beginning of time. The time doesn't exist where he is. So Loki, in essence, probably also created the time stone, because the time stone is what? Green. And if he's sitting there at the beginning and the end of time, when the Big Bang happened and all that energy went out into the multiverse, the time stone being green, I just thought that was like a cool little, and also Wanda, her powers came from which I never got. Wanda's powers come from the Mind Stone, which is yellow, but her whole thing is manipulating reality, which was the Reality Stone. So.
Well, Wanda can do anything. Wanda has no rules. Okay, that's always been a Marvel rule, that Wanda has no rules.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, wait, can you help me on this Loki ending thing a little bit more, because this is interesting. So he ends up like on the tree, the magic Asgardian tree. Does anyone know how to say the name of that tree? Yggdrasil.
Yggdrasil.
Wait, one more time. That was great.
Yggdrasil.
Awesome. Yeah, I've always wondered. Really weird looking word. Great.
It's just because I remember what's his name? Agent Smith.
In Agents of Shield, do they say it?
Red Skull. I had to think. I said Agent Smith from like Matrix.
That's funny.
That Red Skull.
Agent Red Smith.
There's a part where in the beginning of that movie where he's looking for the Tesseract, that he says Yggdrasil. So
awesome. Okay. So that, and it becomes his throne, or he becomes a tree, and sits on the throne, or the throne is a tree.
So the end of the episode, he tears a hole through space, and he's holding all of the multiversal branches, and he's gathering them as he's walking through space to the end of time, where Kang,
and bringing them back to life. Bringing them to life too, because they had died. Some of them were dying. He's
imbuing them with green enchantment, because they're all dying. Right.
Yeah.
And he gets to the end of time, that little like asteroid that Kang's castle was built on top of. Remember from the last season, He Who Remains, Jonathan Majors, eating the apple. His castle has disintegrated. All that's left is the chair he was sitting on.
Okay.
And so Loki is gathering all of the branches, and he sits on that chair that was where Kang the Conqueror, or that variant of Kang the Conqueror, sat to control the sacred timeline. And he's just essentially just holding all of the branches of time together. And he is the center of the tree of life.
Oh, okay.
At the end of time.
It's a shot that they do where, like,
it's a great shot. Yeah.
He brings back all the additional branches that weren't to life. He brings them back, and the other ones are brighter. And then when they show the shot, like Keith said, he's sitting in the like center of it, and then it's like the branches of like
he's become God, essentially.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's become what he's always wanted, but in a benevolent way, right? Because like, what does Loki always want? He wanted to be a god, and he wanted to have a throne.
Well, became more of a god, right?
More of a god.
Already kind of a god.
Because that's the thing, like Asgard, like the MCU established, Asgard is they're just aliens with a lot of power. They're not really gods, but now he is a god. He controls all of time. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I mean, one reason that ending, that Loki ending sounds fascinating to me, and I don't know if we want to bat around the idea of what Secret Wars is going to end up like, what we think that might look like, but just to dip back to the comics, in the recent Secret Wars,
God of Stories,
and also, but the main big bad, Doctor Doom, is sitting on a throne made of the Tree of Life.
Could be.
Remember? Well, so that was sort of the symbol of his godlike power.
They definitely lean into the God of Stories stuff from the comics with this whole season of Loki. I will say, to your point, that could be. I mean, I don't know if they're going to introduce Doctor Doom. Although that was another thing in the Variety story, that when Jonathan Majors was going through his legal troubles, there was
right. I think they might pivot off
brainstorming.
Kang. I'm thinking, or they might
I
pivot
think
to a
they
different
can
villain.
honestly, with the way it ended and the shot of Renslayer, they can now make her actually like Kang,
Kang
essentially. Yeah, they could totally make it all switch out to where she's now the Kang.
Well, and then of all the villains,
Or they could just be
to make
like
it easy to
Kang's Doctor
recast.
Doom. Okay, anyway.
Like you can of all the villains to recast, Kang the Conqueror is the easiest villain to recast.
Yeah, it works.
Make it work. But
Yeah,
whatever.
because he's been all these people,
Yeah, Jonathan
including at
Majors-
one point Doctor Doom, I think.
Hey, Jonathan Majors is out there saving like teenagers, you know, from bullies at school now. So he's an angel.
Okay, I don't want to comment on that. I don't know the
He's not getting
I'm not
caught.
even. I'm not. It's not even a Jonathan Majors thing. I'm just.
No, but so
I'm not
but to your
thinking
point,
King. So
the fact that they've introduced
fine.
the Tree of Life into the
Yeah.
proper MCU, yeah, they may. I mean, it could be someone actually kills Loki, who's been sitting there sacrificing himself.
That's what Doctor Doom's always doing. He like kills the Beyonder and takes his power, and then you get that infinite, omnipotent power thing, sort of like the Infinity Glove. Okay, but at least it becomes a big threat. Like that's the whole conflict in the Secret Wars was there's a
But again,
infinite power.
To what I was saying earlier, that's not why I like this episode.
Oh yeah, no.
I only liked it because
oh, yeah.
I didn't think about what this means for the rest of the MCU. The more I think about what this means for the rest of the MCU, maybe I like it less. But as long as I can divorce it from the rest of everything else, I just love the beauty of what it meant to see Loki, this version of Loki in particular, who had made all of these connections to all of these people, sacrifice that one thing that he in order to let them live, he had to sacrifice himself. And that's the kind of hero's journey story that always appealed to me, made me come back to these stories to begin with. That's what I loved about it. But when you step back and zoom out and try to see how it fits into the thing, that's when it starts to fall apart. And I think a lot of people who didn't like the finale don't like it for those reasons, because like, but this means that, and this means this, and that, you know. So,
and then you think like it actually hurts to do that much thinking, or it's just not enjoyable to process the movie that way.
To your point about too much more, I think it's not enjoyable anymore. Honestly.
Yeah, when I think that's the issue. What's come with the MCU, you're always focused on how, because they've all set it up that way, that you're focusing on what is next, how does this connect to that, or sometimes it's like it's okay to live in the moment and have this story just exist as it is. It doesn't matter how much it affects everything, because it's okay to have more like, you know, contained stories. And that's why I think Loki really, to me as a whole, has worked so well, is because it was its own contained story. Because, you know, the main timeline we're technically following in the movies is where Loki is dead, you know, and he got killed by Thanos. Like, that's the main Loki that technically is in the main timeline. So this is Loki that, you know, escaped and got the Tesseract at the technically at the end of the Battle of New York. So this is Loki we're following. So it's a whole different like person we're following anyways. So I think for me that's why it always worked, because it wasn't super connected, and it was fun. Like I even liked
it's a very fun. The Groundhog Day stuff is my favorite part. When in the beginning, when he's like he goes back to OB and he's like, how much do I need to learn to become a genius physicist and mechanic, and OB says decades, and I forget his name, the
Casey
Pillboy
Casey
says centuries, and then it cuts to centuries later.
Yeah,
and Loki's just like spouting off techno babble like it's nothing, and Hiddleston brings such a great energy to all of the like. It's very much Bill Murray and Groundhog Day. Like, I've gone through this 1,000 times. I know everything that's going to happen. And it's so fun. It's a really fun sequence. Anyway, catch up when you can on Loki, Dominic. I think it'll be worth it.
Yeah, and again, see the Marvels when you can. I do not mean it's like shitty. People who are interested in Marvel stuff should watch it. And there are 3 satisfying parts. It's just not cohesive.
I want to make it clear, I do genuinely want to see the movie. It's just I'm trying to, where I can, boycott things with everything going on in the world. I will do my best to do it. So that's where I'm at with it. Is not because I'm like fuck women and fuck women of color. I don't want to see them in my movies. Like, that's not it.
I mean, Brittany, you share so many things with the incel community. How could you? That's why we thought you
I'm
were
Doja Cat, basically, you know. I'm kidding. But no, I didn't want to. That's why I'm not watching the movies, not because of like some stupid reasons like that.
So yeah, well, I think that's been our return to podcasting. I hope everyone appreciated that. Sorry for taking so many months off, but now we're back. We'll see how back we really are. We'll see how regular this.
Yeah, well, it's the end of the year, right? I mean, like,
put a couple episodes out there into the universe before the end of the year. I have a conversation with Tony Award-winning actor James Monroe Iglehart that I'm going to play after the break. And we talk about his new role as King Arthur on Broadway in Spamalot. We also talk a lot about pro wrestling because dude loves wrestling. I am so excited to finally have on the show. We've been trying to get James on this podcast for many, many years because the Nerds of Color is essentially built just for him. You know him. He's the Tony-winning actor on stage and screen. He was in Aladdin. He was in Hamilton. And this starting this fall, he's back on Broadway.
Yes,
as King Arthur in Spamalot. Please welcome to the podcast America's favorite fighting Frenchman, always, James Monroe Iglehart.
Hello, how you doing, man? Good to meet you, sir. Thanks, Keith.
Well, welcome to the show. I told you right before we started, I'm kind of like trying to create an infinity gauntlet of former Hamilton stars. So I've had Lynn on the show, I've had Javi on the show. I'm glad to finally have you on the show. So.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Welcome. I mean, Hamilton is we were just talking. We actually saw you on stage as Lafayette and Jefferson back in 2017, and one of my favorite things that you ever did on was on YouTube is when you sang "Satisfied."
Oh gosh, that was a lot of fun. I remember how nervous I was about doing it and walking up to Mandy. It was like, how do I learn this as fast as possible? And she was like, well, there really is no easy way. You just got to do it, And I asked her, could I steal some of her riffs? And then one of my other friends, Ginny Harney, who is now Angelica on Broadway, she was the swing. She had a riff that was really cool. I said, do you mind if I kind of like modify your riff and put it into Mandy's riff and make my own? And she was like, totally, go right ahead. And I was able to create this riff of my own. And then after I did it, I didn't think anything of it. And when it got really big, the girls came at me crazy. They were like, oh, so now everybody's calling you Angelica. I was like, look, I said, you better be nice to me. They're building a dress and I'm ready. I'm ready to go.
What do you think? I mean, at some point we got to get like a gender swapped.
Right? people have been wanting that for a long time. Cynthia Erivo, she came out and said that she really wanted to play Burr, and that's when I think the conversation started about gender swapping Hamilton. So I don't know when it'll happen, but I'm pretty sure it'll happen in our lifetime.
Yeah. No, that's very cool. Anyway, but we're not here to talk about Hamilton. We are here to talk about another Broadway show that you're doing. Before we get to Spamalot, I wanted to ask you, like I said, Nerds of Color was built for you. You were one of the biggest nerds that I know of. I follow you on all social medias. We're not going to refer to that dumpster fire of a social media platform that most of us used to be on. But
I understand. Yeah, no. Lord.
But you were one of the great follows at the time when I was on that platform. But anyway, knowing that you have a great affinity for all things nerd, like Star Wars and superheroes. But I was wondering, like, how big is your Monty Python fandom?
It's funny. As far as me personally, I didn't get into Monty Python until I was in college. I remember I was bred and born on Mel Brooks.
Yeah.
So huge Mel Brooks fan. I know I love all his films. My favorite film of all time is still Blazing Saddles, and of course, in History of the World comes as a very close second. So when I got to college, I was coming into there's always in theater, there's always these green room conversations that giant arguments that are actually mean nothing. And it's always like, it's like Lloyd Webber versus Sondheim, or it's something like that. And I came in with Mel Brooks as the funniest person. Some kid came in, you don't know Monty Python? So I had to quickly learn who Monty Python was. And I thought it was a dude, of course, because I had no idea. And then I ended up watching, The Holy Grail, and was like, oh my gosh, this is really, really funny. So I've been a fan for years. Never in a million years thinking that I would get to play King Arthur on Broadway, because I remember being in the show Memphis, And my friend, no, I've not. I was in the show. I was in the show 25th Annual Putnam Spelling Bee. We were doing a reading for Memphis, trying to get it on Broadway. But a friend of mine was in Spamalot, and I said, "I've never seen it. I don't have any money." And he was like, "Don't worry, I got it. I'm in the show. I'll get you a cheap ticket." He got me a cheap ticket, and I sat and watched and laughed and cackled my face off. And the funny thing was, it was great. But with the exception of one girl in the ensemble, there weren't that many people of color in the show.
Right.
And so didn't even cross my mind. So when they did it in Washington, D.C., and I got a call, and they were like, "Hey, they're thinking of you for King Arthur." I was like, "Are you kidding?" And then I listened to it again, and I was like, "Yeah, I could totally do this." And I said, there's a way to do it to make it fun and still stay within the Monty Python world, but
Sure.
also make it a person of color and enjoy yourself doing it. And I'm having a ball right now. It's so much fun.
I mean, and going back to Hamilton, it wasn't the first show to do something like that, but I think it did pave the way, and it revolutionized the idea that you didn't have to, like, you could, these Broadway shows, because what you're saying was actually an indictment of Broadway for a very long time. There were not a lot of people of color in a lot of shows, and then the shows that had people of color was kind of like, I mean, as an Asian American, Miss Saigon, I love the show, but come on,
Sure.
you know what I'm saying? But Hamilton was one of that really broke through to be like, people of color can play any role.
To be honest, I always give Hamilton credit, but to be honest, the first one to really break that was Disney, and I know most people don't want to give Disney credit, but Disney Theatrical was the one who was like, you know what, we don't have to. Everything doesn't have to be the same. Yeah, but I think what happened was, because Disney is Disney. And people, when they go to Broadway, everybody's kind of snooty about Broadway. It's like, "Oh yes, I've gone to Broadway shows. I've seen this and that. Have you seen Lion King? That's for families and children. That's not real Broadway." And you're like, "It's not real Broadway, really?" Mm-hmm. Ask the actors. They're dying up there because they're doing issues. So when Hamilton came out and it became a phenomenon, all of a sudden everybody went, "Look, diversity." Yeah. And so Hamilton got, which is, I mean, to their credit, got labeled as the show to create, the most diversity. But Disney kind of, was one of the first ones to really step into it. But Hamilton took it to a level that most people had never seen it.
Absolutely. Right. And I didn't want to imply that there was no diverse Broadway at all, right? Like, but I think what I was going for more like the idea that like a black man could play King Arthur.
Yeah. I mean,
black man playing George Washington, or black man playing
one of those things where it's like, for some reason, it was always there on Broadway, but it was Hamilton that made people. Well, basically, what happened was Middle America knew what Hamilton was, and I don't disrespect to Middle America, but if they don't see it on TV, they don't seem to realize it exists. And so when they came and saw it or saw the tour, they were like, "Oh well, of course anyone could play anything," and we're all like, "Yeah,
that's what we've been saying."
We've been saying this.
Well, let's talk about your nerdy bona fides then, because in the stage door photo I showed you before we started recording, you're wearing your Han Solo T-shirt. I'm assuming Star Wars is a big fandom of yours. What are some of the other fan communities?
I am Star Wars, of course. I am a Star Trek Next Generation fan. I love the new Star Trek films as well. I am a huge fan of the original. My favorite of the original is not the television show. It is Star Trek Wrath of Khan. Ragato Mataban. I love that. I can say all the lines from that movie. I'm a huge Goonies fan. I am a huge love Steven Spielberg.
Shout out to Ke Huy Quan's research.
Straight up, I'd be coming in and just like taking the Oscar, like going away, and then coming back so strong. I mean, it was just like the brother never left. That's how dope he truly is. And I mean, I like everything from my comic books too. I'm a Disney nerd, so that's a thing. I am also a humongous professional wrestling fan. Nice. And it's not just the WWE. No, I am AEW. I am AAA. I am
New Japan.
New Japan Pro Wrestling. My God, Okada is just ridiculous, and I want to go to Japan so bad, to the Tokyo Dome, just to be there. I've been to 4 WrestleManias, and I want to go to Wrestle Kingdom so bad, because when I remember when I was a kid, I was in junior high school, and a friend of mine named Colin Cornwell, shout out to Colin because we're all big wrestling fans, he told me that, "Have you seen WCW, in the Land of the Rising Sun?" And I was like, what is this? Ric Flair was going out to Japan to wrestle, and the Steiner brothers were going, and Sting was going, and that was the first time I had seen Oh my God, I can't think of his name.
Takashi.
No, it was these are like 80s. Because he had joined.
So this was like Sting with the blonde hair, and
this is like Sting with the blonde hair, and I had got the video, but I was so shocked by the fact that Animal got hurt. So Hawk from the Legion of Doom was wrestling with another Japanese fellow, and I used to know his name. And watching that, and the first time I saw Jushin Thunder Liger, I thought I was going to lose my mind, because I was like, there's actually a real Ultraman. Ultraman is real. He is about 5'5", but he's still real. And once I saw, Japanese wrestling, I was like, okay, this is a whole different thing. So from luchadors to Japanese wrestling to English, the way that English wrestlers like William Regal and those guys, I mean, professional wrestling, I even went to a wrestling school for a hot second thinking I was going to join, and then my father talked me out of it. I'm glad he talked me out of it.
Well, you can. I'm sure like you could do one of those guest spots on SmackDown.
Well, I've become really good friends with Xavier Woods and Alexa Bliss.
Well, another nerd of color. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
so
New Day.
Those guys. Kevin Owens. They all came to Broadway, and I started using Broadway as a way to make wrestling friends. So between,
seems incongruous, but not really.
Yeah. No, I mean, it just totally works out. Like, they love it. To me, wrestling is the most amazing base of theater, because with Broadway you have all the accoutrement, you have the sets and the music and all the lines and everything. Wrestling is the most base form of theater because you have to tell a story physically.
Yeah,
you have to be.
It's
good
dancing.
On the mic. It's dancing, and you have to be good on the mic to bark, to get people to come to your matches. And then, but the match itself, you have to tell a story with the match. And these performers trust each other so much that they're able to hit each other for real and sometimes hurt each other.
Wait, when they say wrestling's fake, I mean, it's not fake, because they are really throwing each other against the tables and chairs. And
the tables, the chairs, the slaps, everything is, you have to get in there snug to make it look real without killing your opponent. And the trust that they have, it's just, it's literally one of my favorite things ever. And what's funny is a lot of my friends, when we were younger, once they found out wrestling was fake, or I should say, once they found out wrestling was predetermined, scripted, they didn't like it anymore. The minute I found out it was predetermined, I loved it even more, because I was like, you're trying to tell me that these guys, these women, these performers trust each other so much to tell this story to the audience, and they have to work it so well that the audience gets built up so much that they believe everything.
They're invested.
They're so invested. I was hooked, and I've been hooked since I was 10 years old.
Honestly, it's why it's, to your point around like the idea of it being scripted versus real and everything. When you're a kid, I think we're probably close in age. I remember, the original era of Hulkamania and then like Saturday Night Main Event and stuff. Like, I loved that growing up. But then but that's when I was a kid and I thought it was real. Right. But when I fell in love with wrestling, I wanted to ask you. I didn't realize we we're going to be doing a wrestling podcast. This is great. When I really like my favorite era was like that WCW versus WWF.
Yes.
Era, right? The Monday Night Wars. But what I loved though was like the theatricality of Dwayne Johnson.
Yes. Yes.
The fact that his wrestling moves were so ridiculous.
What I loved about it,
but they were so electrifying.
What I love about it is, like, sometimes you do things just to make your friends laugh. And
come on, the People's Elbow is the worst move ever.
The People's Elbow, the rumor is the People's Elbow was made to make Undertaker laugh. Could they break the Undertaker? And that's where that move came from. But the first time I started hearing about these ribs in the ring was the late great Owen Hart. They were wrestling at a house show. For those who don't know, there's the television shows like Raw and SmackDown, and those are the shows that are, for the camera. And then there are house shows where they go to just an arena, no cameras, you could do what you want. And at the house shows, they don't have to wrestle like towards the camera, they can just wrestle. And Owen Hart was feeling it. He was on one day, and he was in a tag team and he wanted to make people laugh. So he took out a tissue paper and he rolled it. And he started clotheslining the other guy with a tissue paper, and they
sold it. I'm sure.
Right, they sold it, and the fact that the other guys had to try to stay serious while he is literally using a piece of tissue paper to destroy someone. I was like, That's it. Because what made me laugh is that that's still what we do on Broadway. Like I do things to Nick Walker just because it's fun. You know, I try to break him if I can, or Taryn tries to break me. Or last night, there's a moment in our show where I won't say what happens, but someone's head falls off. That's all I'm going to say. And I saw it going towards the pit.
flesh wound.
I saw it going towards the pit, and I was like, I can't let this head roll in the pit. So I dived for it like a freaking football. And the way the audience lost it, and I looked at my cast and they were done. I mean, they were done. We were able to finish the show, but they were like, we can't believe you dived for it. I was like, well, I wanted to stop it, but I also was like, how can I stop it in the funniest way possible? So, I mean, when I saw that the wrestlers would do that, or like the Spinaroonie by the amazing Booker T, there are some moves that look devastating.
I have time.
No, you know, the Stone Cold Stunner looks devastating. The Pile Driver looks devastating, and then you have, you have the Cobra by Santino Morelli. Like, this is freaking ridiculous. Or, you know, I've met Mick Foley several times, and just listening to him talk about Mr. Sacco. I mean, that's the fun part about wrestling, because it's that moment of like that you can create such a big disbelief that you could do something so ridiculous and the audience is still like, yes, I'm invested.
The personas are what sells it, right? And the fact that Mick Foley is a great example, like the difference between Dude Love and Mankind, and then Mankind having like 3 or 4 different iterations, right? Like,
and the fun part is, I remember specifically, I was in Aladdin, and we were in Toronto, and we were doing I've been watching wrestling, like I said, since I was 10 years old. And I love improv. So you put wrestling, improv, theater together. That's and Disney and comic books, and you've pretty much got James Monroe Iglehart. That's who I am. So we're sitting down with some Disney execs, and I love them, by the way. I love Disney. I've been working with them forever. But one of them comes up to me, okay, you can do an interview, and we're going to put you with someone, and this is what we want you to say. And I was like, this is kind of, no disrespect, but this is kind of, kind of bland. James, listen, just say it and sell it. I said, okay, I know what I'm doing. Listen, if you just do it our way. I said, okay, how about this? First interview, because we had this press junket. I said, first interview, I'll do it your way. Second interview, let me do it my way. And they said, fine. Oh, okay, James, just fine. And they got attitude with me. I was like, okay, cool. So I did it their way the first time. Hi, this is James Iglehart, and please come see Aladdin at this theater in Toronto, blah, blah. And they were like, yeah, that worked. And I was like, okay. They said, well, try it your way. I said, cool. So I was like, ladies and gentlemen, let me explain who I am. My name is James Monroe Iglehart, a.k.a. Genie in Disney's Aladdin, and I want to tell you something. You want to go to a show that's going to make your family happy? This is the show to see. By the way, it's not just for your family. Say, man, you want to get your girl happy? You want to be on a great date? Let me go. Listen. Once they see the carpet, I'm telling you, man, there's no telling where that girl might take you. I am telling you, this is for grandma. This is for dad. This is for the kids. It's for everybody. You're going to love this show. I'm telling you. And you get 3 wishes, and all those wishes are, I hope you have a fantastic time. And they were like, whoa, how did you... where'd you learn that? And I looked him dead in the face and I said, professional wrestling.
You've made a promo.
I said, it's called a promo. I said, all you have to do is give me the talking points and I will sell your show. Because as a kid, I used to watch the bests on the mic, Ric Flair, Dusty Rhodes, The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin. I mean, these guys... just watching, and one of the unsung heroes of being on the mic, Arn Anderson, the man who created the name, the Four Horsemen. These guys were amazing to watch. Randy Macho Man Savage with his cream of the crop, promo, or just not.
That's the beauty of YouTube, though, right? Like for kids who weren't our age, they can go back and watch some of these like wild promos,
or watch guys who realized. I learned that if you talk softly, people listen more. You can yell and scream and holler, but I watched Jake the Snake. And Jake the Snake Roberts wouldn't yell, and he would talk soft, and it would make the audience have to shut up and listen. And
he also had a giant ass boa constrictor.
Well, that too, But it was something about him saying, Hogan, I've been watching you, and it made the people just go, and wrestling helped my career. If you see me on interviews, people go, wow, James is so quick, James, so this, it's because of pro wrestling. A lot of the things I learned was watching those performers, and I was like, I can take that and put that into Broadway. And So when you ask about my nerddom, I mean, I have so many. I mean, from Harry Potter to Ready Player One to music to movie musicals. But it's pro wrestling that has always been the thing that, you know, I've always come back to. It's never ever.
That's awesome. I mean, talk about learning something. I knew about all of your fans. I didn't realize you were a big wrestling guy.
Oh gosh.
But now it makes, I mean, you know, like, I don't know how many people have ever drawn the parallels between Broadway and pro wrestling, but I mean, it's there. And like, talk about the greatest showmen are those people in the ring. You know,
what's funny is I used The Rock and I used Apollo Creed to create Thomas Jefferson in my Hamilton. So I went to see Hamilton originally. I was a part of it actually when Lynn first wrote it.
Right.
I was a part of the original concert that he did at Lincoln Center, and I played Mulligan. Then I went on to do Aladdin, and when Tommy Kail called me back, he said, "Hey, we want you to play Jefferson." I was like, "I don't know if I can play Jefferson." I said, "You know, that's my boy David Diggs, and he made it. And it's his." So I called David, you know, David with that cool voice. He's like, "Yo, man, you know, you could totally do this. This is you, dude. You just do your thing." And I was like, "Cool, thank you." And I was like, "How do I get into this? How do I read you know, stuff on Thomas. How do I get into this?" And I realized they have 2 cabinet battles, and I looked at the cabinet battles and realized these cabinet battles, in my opinion, just from me, the way I saw it, was Rocky 1 and Rocky 2. When Apollo Creed fights Rocky the first time, he takes him lightly. He comes in, he's showboating. He's got the American flag. It's a show to him.
Right.
And when he gets close to losing, he can't believe it. So the next time he sees him, is as Apollo says, it's no shucking, no jiving, just business. And so I play it like that. I played it like that every time. And I remember Tommy said, "Dude, it's amazing how you do this switch from like being, you know, this showman." And then at the end, I was like, it's Apollo to me. And every time I thought about that, I was like, when The Rock steps into someone and underestimates them, like when he wrestled Sugar Shane Helms, aka the Hurricane, he underestimated. And when he got close to losing, The Rock turned into, you know, The Rock. And I was like, that's how Jefferson has to be with him. And also, I'm a bigger guy, so I was like, you know, Diggs is gorgeous, sexy. He is intimidating, but he's gorgeous and sexy. I'm like, I'm stocky. I'm cute, but I'm stocky. I'm a big dude. I said, you know, I have size. So some of these Hamiltons really little. I'm like, oh, I'm totally using all of this.
Right.
Using Apollo Creed and The Rock is what created my character.
That's awesome. Wow. That is so cool. No, really. And I know we're getting close to our end time, and there's so many things I wanted to talk to you about, but this has been fascinating. Just to dive into your like wrestling fan brain. I mean, I could talk to you for hours.
Oh yeah, we can go. But I know what we're here for. And let me just say this: the fun part about Spamalot is, if you haven't seen the film, Monty
the tables
Python,
and chairs. Is that the tables, tables, ladders, and chairs.
That part of the show is great. And what's funny is the funny thing you say, we use a lot of tables. We use a lot of tables. And we use a lot of ladders. No chairs. But actually, yes, we do. We will talk about that. You have to come.
Well, they had folding chairs back in King Arthur's day, though.
Well, we found a way to make a chair on stage, and it's really, really fun. Trust me, you just have to see it.
All right.
But I will say, the great thing about our show is that our show, especially for this time, there's so much craziness in the world. There's so much craziness when you look at the news or when you pick up your phone. It just seems like the things that we're looking at can't possibly be real. The things that people are going through can't possibly be real. And sometimes you just need a time to laugh. You just need a time to get away and just be entertained. That we're not trying to teach you anything. We're not trying to beat you up the head. We just want to show you a good night and a wonderful, and just entertain you. And that's what Spamalot is. Spamalot is a fun night when you want to take your family and go and just laugh your head off. That's what our show is. We are just there to go, hey guys, forget the outside of this theater for a hot second and let us just take you away to this silly place and enjoy yourself. And the physical jokes are there for the kids, and the innuendos and jokes there for the adults. And for the tweens who go, oh my God, I get both of those. It's for everybody. It's for grandma. It's for you. It was not for little kids. I'd say you got to be about maybe 7, 8 to come to our show. I wouldn't bring you little kids, but 7, 8, you're like, okay, because there's some fart jokes. For the 7, 8, they're like, ha, fart joke. So hey, but I'm telling you, we have the best cast. We have Taron Killam from Saturday Night Live fame. We have Michael Urie, who is from everything from Shrinkage to Ugly Betty, Nick Walker and I from both Hamilton, Aladdin, Leslie Kritzer from Beetlejuice. We have Chris Fitzgerald, who was in everything from Young Frankenstein to he was just in Waitress. I mean, we have so many. We have Jimmy Smigula from like too many Broadway shows. We have so many people that are so good at what they do. Am I getting everybody? Like, yes, Michael, Yuri, Smiggle, yes, me, trust me, you're going to have, and also for those people who love Beetlejuice or people who love Hell of a Boss, it's on YouTube. Alex Brightman is coming in January. And also, just for you Monty Python fans, you want to see the Holy Grail, it's on stage, we're live, we're singing, we're dancing, we're having a great time. But just for you Broadway fans that just want to see, we make fun of Broadway, but at the same time, we're celebrating what Broadway is. Broadway's a place to have amazing stories, amazing dancing, amazing singing, but at the same time, laugh your head off. That's what Spamalot is. Spamalot is just a good time. And I think our world needs that. Our country needs that. A lot of the shows coming into Broadway right now are very serious. No disrespect. I mean, they're good. They're great shows. But, you kind of leave going, wow, I think I need a palate cleanser. Our show is that palate cleanser. Our show is that you come in, man, you're going to have a great, Keith, you come in, you're going to have a great time with us, man. No joke.
You see how I let James cut that promo just now? That's, if you smell, no.
Right.
Well, James, good luck on staying on Spamalot. You are an amazing dude, and I wish you the best. Thank you for spending time with us here at the
Please, my pleasure, man.
Finally, and please come back so we can talk about your other fandoms, because
we can't, because I realized I went off on wrestling, but we can. There's others. We can.
I mean, I want to talk about DC versus Marvel. We can talk about Star Wars. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You started with the new Lois Lane and Ms. Maisel, so like,
I know, right?
How cool is that?
She is the sweetest person ever. I'm telling you, she's so good. Just watching her on that show, it was a masterclass, because she has so much to say, and it's all in her head, and she's so professional. She's going to be a fantastic Lois Lane.
Rachel Brosnahan, that it feels like Marvelous Ms. Maisel was like the audition to play Lois Lane.
No, honestly, it really seemed like it was. People aren't ready. People aren't ready for what she's about to do.
And now that the strike is over and they announced Superman Legacy is going to start production, man. Anyway, so I can go off. We need to come back. We need to.
You also need to get Eric Bauza up in here if you ever get a chance.
We've talked to him. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I mean, he and I, we spoke, because I'm up in the same Emmy category as him, and I still go, I'm in the Emmy category with Bugs Bunny and
with Bugs Bunny himself.
Right, nuts. So, but thank you, man. I can talk to you forever.
Now, Jay, well, before we go, how can people find you online if you still want to find you online?
You can go on Instagram. I am JM Iglehart on James M Iglehart on Instagram. You can't miss me. So actually, no, sorry, JM Iglehart, because on the other dumpster fire I was James Iglehart. But JM Iglehart on Instagram is usually where you can find me. I'm still on Facebook because my mom's on that.
Well, that's all of our moms are. And which theater is Spamalot playing in?
Spamalot is at the St. James Theater in New York City. We are on 44th Street. You cannot miss us. You can walk past our theater and see our faces on the side of the building. Come down and watch us chase this grail for a little while and have a great time with us.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, James, for being on the show. We will find another time to bring you back, because we got a lot to talk about.
You got it.
We've been off for a couple months. What had been nerd popping for you guys while we were out? Brittany, we'll start with you.
So I watched One Piece, the live action, which I loved the live action so much. Luffy is, I think, such an adorable character. I love the whole cast. Everyone on that show is so great. I liked it so much that I actually started watching the One Piece anime, which I'm having a lot of fun with that. I'm still on season 1 because I think each season's 60 episodes.
There's 5 million episodes you need to catch up on.
Yeah, I know. I'm on episode 24, 25. But I really liked it. It was so much fun. And I was my plan for Halloween was actually to because I knew I was going to be working, was to dress up as a Luffy as the best way I could at work without being entirely out of dress code. And then SAG-AFTRA released the whole like you can't do anything that would be considered struck work, and because One Piece is now a live action, I was like, oh, someone could be like, oh, Britney is breaking rules.
Yeah, you could dress up like the manga. That's not
What, you can't do cosplay? Okay, but
it's a whole like thing that the whole rules of like SAG-AFTRA stuff for the strike, and if you want to eventually join SAG-AFTRA, also they were like you should follow the rules. Yeah, so that like totally ruined my Halloween costume, and my little brother stole my idea and dressed up as Luffy. So
wow.
And went to work in his whole like Luffy costume. And I was so mad because I was like, that was my idea.
Dang, bro.
Yeah, I really liked that a lot. Oh, one more thing. The Avatar: The Last Airbender trailer for the live action. Insane. I'm so excited.
What?
I haven't been able to fangirl with anyone about this.
I missed
really
that.
excited.
Are they making another one?
For
Live
Netflix?
action, yeah. With Asian people this time.
Go on, please.
And they showed Appa, and Appa looks so good. And I don't know, I'm just so excited. And then the kid playing Zuko, he does the, Zuko's famous like kick where the fire comes out of his foot. And I was like, ah! So yeah, that's really great. Sorry, guys.
That's crazy. No, I'm glad to know that because I didn't know or forgot they were doing that.
And, you got to look up the trailer.
Yeah, sure.
What's his name is playing Uncle Iroh.
Paul Sung Lee, Carson,
the X-wing pilot.
Yeah.
Ahsoka. We didn't podcast while Ahsoka was on, and I know Brittany. Of all the Disney things you wanted to boycott, you could not boycott Ahsoka because your boy Hayden. Talk about a renaissance. Hayden Christensen as Anakin Skywalker. Totally for anyone who hated the prequel who hated the prequels. Or accused Hayden Christensen of wooden acting, go watch. Was it episode 5 when Ahsoka goes back in time? Is that in the World Between Worlds?
I think so. Or episode 2 or 3 actually. It's pretty early into the show. It happens.
It wasn't 5. I don't know. Whichever episode they go into the World Between Worlds. Where Anakin.
I'm gonna groan, but I appreciate you guys' love and investment in it.
But
I'm saying Hayden does so. He find like that. If Hayden acted like that in 2002 and 2005, I would have appreciated him more.
Whoa,
but like we were seeing, when Anakin is broody and like moody and sad and angsty and emo.
Yeah, and also wooden line delivery. But that's not his fault. This is one of those cases where like, don't blame the quarterback, blame the coach. That's the case here because like the quarterback had talent, the coach didn't know how to bring it out of him. But now, same quarterback, different coach.
I disagree. I think he was always great since Attack of the Clones. Hayden is perfect.
Would cross picket lines for.
Dominic, anything nerd pop in these last few months for you?
I'm blanking. Just recently, but the way I've been dealing with superhero fatigue is watching the old Wonder Woman show on Max.
Oh, right. I saw you.
That show is so good from 1975. That's all I can say. When I feel cynical about the current state of things, remember the Wonder Woman show that we grew up on. And it's just delightful, her goodness. And you can see like everything that was lifted to make the Patty Jenkins movies, whole set pieces that they reinterpreted in recent movies. So I think she watched that one a lot. Anyway, it's just beautiful. Keith.
That's still on Max, right?
Yes, it's on Max.
It hasn't been removed from Max like everything.
I think I've only stumbled onto it because I was also watching the old Superman movies with Christopher Reeve. Also a breath of fresh air if you ever feel like revisiting those.
Absolutely. And speaking of Superman, James Gunn announced that they are still on pace to make their July 11th, 2025
Are they really?
date for Superman.
Is that when it's supposed to be? Okay.
So we'll see.
Superman returns, or
Superman Legacy is the name of the movie, starring David Corenswet and Rachel Brosnahan as Superman and Lois. I'm as much as a superhero fatigue I am excited for that movie. I will say though, I wish they didn't announce the DC universe being this like interconnected universe already. Like, James Gunn last year at this point had that big video where he's like, we're going to do this and then we're going to do this and we're going to
a whole slate.
I feel like announcing slates and kind of planning your universe I just don't think that's the way to go. Like, I don't care about Creature Commandos and the other movies or whatever and how they all interconnect. Just tell a good story. If you get the Superman movie right, tell a good story there, and then I'll care. But if you're telling me this is a chapter in a bigger story, I don't know how much I care.
Keith, I just want to I wish we had a time machine. We could flip back like some years ago. The conversation was like, it's amazing they're putting this all together. I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but you know what I'm saying?
No,
like, our perspective has changed. It's amazing they're putting these movies together that are interconnected, and they're like team ups and cameos and guest stars. And now we've come around to the other side of noticing you also want the movie to have a certain, dramatic.
I mean, my main like ask, just be good. If you could do both, I think that was the
just be good. That
was the secret sauce. I think of the first phase of Marvel is that like they were good movies that happened to connect.
Oh, that's their secret.
They were good movies.
Just made them good. Wow. Well,
make them good.
Why doesn't everyone do that? Yeah.
Well,
why does that? Everyone just make the best thing ever whenever they make any.
Why can't they make them good? I mean, if the DCEU was full of good movies, I would wish it would continue, but there's more stinkers than not. So, I mean, and I think my evolution, there was a period in the middle there where I was like, I mean, to me, the promise of a multiverse has always been like, just tell whatever you want. It doesn't matter how they connect because it's a multiverse. And I think why I think I'm getting so frustrated with phase 6 or whatever phase we're in with Marvel is that the multiverse has to connect. I'm like, why does it have to connect? It's a multiverse. They can be anything.
Exactly.
And that's where it's starting to lose me. And I think with where I was with the, with like Birds of Prey and Suicide Squad and Peacemaker, like they didn't have to all fit together. Just tell like the loose connected DC universe. I was actually more excited about, than not. But whatever. We don't need to litigate that again. Well, I was nerd popping. I'll say this. I've been very. I talked about them, and when we podcasted before. There's this Japanese band called Atarashi Gakko that I saw just over the weekend for the first time in DC. They're amazing. They're on their first American tour in the middle of it right now. And like I said, I saw them in DC. They're so good that's probably like the only like nerdy thing I've been doing for the last is just listening to their music and watching them on YouTube. And so that they're really cool. Check them out, Atarashi Gakko. We actually posted on our YouTube channel their performance from the DC show last night or the night before. So check that out on our channel. And yeah, I'm not really nerd popping a lot of things nowadays, man. I'm losing interest. And we talked about this on our anniversary show. Like,
watch One Piece. The live action. You don't have to watch the show. You can.
I know all about One Piece. I'm not.
Just watch the live action. It's so great. It's so fun. You will love Luffy.
Hey, Brittany, if you cancel me for this, you may not want to come back and be on the podcast. I don't like Avatar: The Last Airbender. Like at all.
Sour uncle. But that's the one that's good. Wait, don't tell me you like Avatar, the James Cameron one more.
No, I don't. I'm saying my brother who's listening to this will back me up on this. I don't get why we Asians give that a pass.
I would, as an Asian American person, I'd argue because it has to be well executed. It's not like cultural stealing. Well, it can be, and it can also be really well told, like Big Trouble in Little China. But that's a whole other ball of wax.
I mean, that's the thing. I just never got into it, and my brother and I talk about this all the time about how like it's two white guys who just took like Buddhism and Chinese kung fu and made an anime out of it, and like Asians in particular like love it so much.
That is absolutely true, but it happens to be one of the good versions of that.
But
at least George Lucas had the sense to like give it different names, and they just straight up put like kanji characters on things and say it's a fantasy world. Like, no, it's Chinese.
It has that level of exoticism. That's where it draws its exotic power from, like right. Star Wars and all that. But hey, yeah. Also, I don't want to leave it on this like negative notes. I want to say, like, I'm optimistic about not much about the whole world in 2024, 2025, but I'm kind of optimistic about those young Avengers. I like the whole idea. I'd like if if they have to like focus and gamble on something, give Haley Steinfeld and Iman Vellani all the money to be the focus of the universe, you know, or give them the give them the development so that we get into them as in the way we were into, you know, Cap and Iron Man back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
Also, just on the level that I don't know if that's how they do it. I like the idea of that like underpowered normal human person, you know, being in the front when all this cosmic stuff is happening, and that could be Kate Bishop. I guess it'll just like Captain America was like that guy with the perspective of the quote unquote normalish person with the least powers. I guess they also have new Captain America and Daredevil for that. Anyway, blah blah blah. But I'm still cautiously.
No, we should
optimistic.
end on optimism. You're absolutely right, and we shall. I'm sorry, Brittany, for not liking Avatar: The Last Airbender.
I mean, your
not being
reasons are.
excited for
I
the
would say
long
your
ride.
reasons are valid though, because I 100% get that. I don't know. It's fun. Avatar's fun.
No, I don't begrudge people for liking it, but yeah,
I like Avatar: The Last
that's fine.
Airbender.
And no, I'm not. Look, when Nerds Color launched 10 years ago, like half our content was writing about Avatar: The Last Airbender. So,
Well, I'm down to talk about it when the
yeah,
show's
yeah,
out.
no, for sure. I might not.
Daniel
be on
Day
those
Kim is
episodes.
in it. Daniel Day Kim is in it. Like,
Yeah,
come
I might not be in
on.
those episodes. But it's all good. It's all good. That's the Nerds of Color. That's Hard Knock Life, everybody. We are back for the time being. Thank you for listening. Stay tuned for my conversation with James Monroe Iglehart. I might just release that as a separate audio because we're going on so long anyway. But in the meantime, Brittany, can people still find you on the internet? Are we still?
Yes,
on
yes,
social
Oh
media?
yeah, let's catch up on that.
I am at Hi Brittany Monet on I still call it Twitter, and Twitter, Instagram. I do have Threads. I also have I still have Hive, even though
Speaking of branching, sorry.
and I have not been back with doing obviously this is my first podcast back, so hopefully something will happen with Lituation Room and all of that good stuff. And yeah.
Dominic, what social media platforms are you on right now?
I've been getting back into it, and it is confusing these days, but the simple part is I'm Dom on both of them. I'm on most of them. I'm usually the same handle, DOMMAH on Instagram, and I use Blue Sky. I like Blue Sky and Threads somewhat.
But not the site that shall not be named.
No, I'm still on Twitter a bit, but I believe the environment sucks, and as we all know, and but and I kind of anyway. I would like to meet up with people in Blue Sky kind of space or Instagram.
I am on Blue Sky, thanks to Dominic. You can look for the real channel on. I don't. The handles are. They need to shorten the handles on Blue Sky.
They need to do a lot
So
of
weird.
things, Grandpa. Yeah.
But you can also find me, Real Geek Chow, on Instagram. Just search The Nerds of Color on any social media platform. We're on all of them. Especially go to youtube.com/The Nerds of Color to find all of our videos and buy our merch. I think we still have merch, maybe. tpublic.com, search for The Nerds of Color. If our merch is still there, you can buy it. And if it's not there, donate money to us on patreon.com/The Nerds of Color. And if that's not there, just say what's up on all of the social media platforms at The Nerds of Color. That's Hard Knock Life. That's Brittany. That's Dominic. I'm Keith. Until next time.
The Marvels really needed a Bangles song. That's all I have to say.
Well, the karaoke aspect was not as present this time around, was it?
Yes, there were fewer needle drops, a few good ones. The way they used the Beastie Boys song, its training sequence very much evokes this scene from Neon Genesis Evangelion, where Asuka and Shinji have to coordinate, train, dance to fight the next evil angel, and that's the weird, obscure reference I'll leave you with. Thanks.
Thanks.